annoying message that says, do you want to copy, do you want to show the screen or whatnot? Hey, everybody, Capt Ron here with Diane and Eric. And of course, we've got our trusty technical guy here, Dieter, with us. And welcome you to this week's episode of Fearless Flight Live. I have to check my watch to see what day it is to make sure I tell you what show we're doing or whatever. Had a great free webinar on Sunday, Clear for Takeoff 101 online. For any of those of you who participated, we thank you. And a few more of you will get the replay. And that goes on every month. The first Sunday of the month, following the first Saturday of the month when we do the 101 live, which, by the way, we'll be talking about more next week. That is the Clear for Takeoff 101 in person at the Phoenix airport, if you're anywhere near Phoenix that way. So this week, let me share my screen here. Make it look like
just to let you know, so the class in Phoenix Sky Harbor will be Saturday, May 4th, and the free online class will be the Sunday, May 5th.
You bet. So here we are. Welcome everybody once again to this week's Fearless Flight Live. We always make a pitch for you to join the Birds of a Feather. It is literally growing exponentially now. We must have hit the tipping point because we went from 1,500 to 16. We're on our way to 1,700 now. And when we get to 10 times that much, we'll start backing off a little bit. But we want around 17,000 of you out there. I don't think that's too much to ask. So there's certainly 17,000 people who are not crazy about getting on airplanes. So come and join us. Okay, tonight, Diane is back in the air. We'll just stop and talk to Diane for a minute. We'll make her the center of the attraction. And tell us, what does that mean, Diane? You're back in the air.
Yes, I'm back in the air, literally and figuratively. Most of you probably didn't know that I have been on medical leave since the beginning of July. First, it was a torn rotator cuff. And then as I started getting better from that, turned out I needed to have a total hip replacement. So my one hip here is 76 years old, and this hip is 5 months old. Anyway, so I hadn't been able to fly for a long time. And as we've all talked about in the past, for pilots and flight attendants, we have to go to recurrent, or how we call it CQ. We have to do those kinds of things for our airline and also for the FAA to prove to everyone that we still know what we're doing. And because I was on medical leave for so long, I missed my CQ month, which is December. Anyway, so I finally got better, and my surgeon said you can go back to work. But the going back to work part isn't you just go back to work, because I missed that particular threshold that is required by the FAA and my company. And so I had to go back to what we call requal, which was I was gone for 4 days. 1 day was travel. 1 day was an afternoon of requalification test, training and testing. And then another day, the next day, for about close to 7 hours of training and testing. And then the next day I had to fly 2 legs. All of the training and testing was in Denver, and I had to fly 2 legs on an aircraft with a lead instructor, basically a rater, someone who's watching me. And so we flew from Denver to Minot, North Dakota, which I've never been to Minot. Now I have. I haven't actually stepped on the ground, but I was in Minot and back. And it was on an aircraft I have not been on in 4 years, with a carrier that I have not flown in 4.5 years. So that was pretty interesting. At any rate, I passed everything. And so, and not only that, but I hit 5 years in March. So that was a huge step. So 5 years in, and I'm back qualified again as far as the company and the FAA thinks. And they've already assigned me reserve duty starting Thursday. So no rest for the wicked. Anyway, so I'm back flying, and I'm very excited about it. So thanks.
Welcome back. Glad to have you. Okay, let me go back to the share. And we're going to talk just a minute, a little bit more about clearing the air on Boeing. That's definitely a popular item out there. Most of you have lost faith. it's like, well, I don't want to make fun of you, but it's like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, parts falling off airplanes and losing wheels and all that. And we're going to try and put that into perspective one more time. Don't do that. Come on. I hate that when that happens. And 101 in person, Dieter mentioned that the 301 graduation flight, we're going to have another one for all of you who've been begging, particularly in the LA area, to have a flight. Okay, now is the time to put up, and we'll have the details in that. The 201 live monthly group coaching is a week from this Thursday, April 18th. And then, of course, we'll take your ongoing questions and comments. So let me read. I was trying to get a guest on. I've had several people invite me to look at this and or ask me questions about, is it safe to fly? Should I be flying and whatnot? So I thought I'd start with one in particular, and that I got, and she's somewhere out in the ether trying to get on and join us as a live guest, but unable to do that so far. So I'm just going to read the essence of her letter here. It's kind of cute. We're not making fun of Ellie. Because like I said, I've had many of these. It says, "Hey, Capt Ron, long time no see. I need some thoughts and information on all these planes that are physically falling apart and hitting each other. This has been going on lately. I need to know just what is happening, don't we all? I worked for over a year on my fears so I could go to Europe, but now I'm planning to go to Seattle. And since my flight has been booked, doors are flying off planes, tires are falling off, planes are hitting each other on the runways, engines are going up in flame, and now an engine cover falls off. So what's going on? I'm not going to be able to get on a plane again, and all my fears are coming back. Can you explain any of this away? I don't think you can. Will you address this in a web meeting? If so, please tell me which one and hook me up so I can get on the conversation." Well, last week we talked about it. In the last month, including the crew edition, we've been talking about things related to this. So I think you're right, Elliot. I don't think I could tell you, but we got good old Captain Eric. So Captain Eric's going to talk to us about this.
Hey, Eric.
And let me get back up. So you guys are still looking at the slides? Just say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. All right. So I just want to, before I turn Eric loose here, here's an article, and you can find the, oh, come on, my word. Please. I apologize, folks. It's my trigger finger here that is extra happy. And when it does that, it casts my slides to the wind. I have no idea where anything went. So I have to go back to square one. That's what happens when you hire the less than the technically challenged. Okay. Stop the share. I'm going to go back to this. Open the presentation. Play from current slide. One of you guys has got to learn how to sing.
While you're doing that, I just want to do a shout out to Jim and Tracy. I know you went to different places to see the eclipse, and I hope you had just as magical a time as we had up here in Canada near Niagara Falls. It was just amazing. And I think Jim is actually on a cruise ship somewhere. And
he's always on a cruise ship somewhere.
Yeah, near Mazatlan. Is that how you pronounce it? Mazatlan. Yeah. So he's
that was one of the sites of the eclipse yesterday.
Yes.
Mazatlan.
Yeah.
First onshore part of the totality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Königsdam cruise ship. Boys never home.
Well,
yeah, news would be when Jim is home. So okay. All right, back to this. Should I fly Boeing airplanes? Well, this is a site, and like I started to say, you can find many of these out there where people help us put it in perspective. And their site is some kind of advisory for people who do a lot of flying and stuff like that. Yeah, it's still safe. And what we want to do is we want to take just a minute and we want to to let Eric talk a little bit about. Well, first thing, what Ellie, our caller or our person that whose email that I just read, what she struggles with, is what many of you do, is whether or not it's safe to fly, because you start thinking about those things, and the human brain, one of the things it does is it has confirmation bias. So if I have a particular burr in my saddle about flying, whether it's things falling out of the sky, airplanes running into each other, now I'm looking for confirmation bias. I'm looking for things, articles, media reports, and everything like that will confirm that. And that just heightens my awareness. And so now I notice more and more of them. There's another similar example. If you decide you're going to buy a red Porsche, now you start noticing red Porsches all over. You tune yourself to define your own expectations. So that's a big part of what's going on. We're not diminishing the fact that Boeing has got themselves in some hot water, and they deserve all the negative press they're getting right now. That's just what happens out there. But when you put it into perspective, and this site here that I was showing does make an attempt at that, to show that Airbus, Boeing has 31% of the airplanes flying, the 110,000 departures every day are Boeing 737s. So if something goes wrong at a Boeing, it's 1 out of 3 chances that or 1 out of 3 chances it'll be a Boeing. And with the heightened awareness, you'll see it in the newspaper out there. So Eric has the latest on that cover thing that happened yesterday, and we'll just brainstorm this a little bit and see if we can't come up with some comforting things for you. Eric?
So guys, Ron really hit that well in the recap. There's 30-something thousand 737 launches every single day. And in the past, none of this would have warranted a click or passed an editor or anything else as a newsworthy report. But now, because Boeing has feathered their nest, as it were, with some malfeasance, it's all exciting, gripping drama. But in reality, it's not. Boeing didn't secure the emergency exit door properly, and they didn't cause a tire to come off the airplane. And the most recent deal with this picture of the cowl, I mean, that's very dramatic footage of the engine cowl, which is the cover, slapping the front of that wing of the Southwest airplane. And the beginning of the footage, or some of the footage, shows that it was actually coming loose during the takeoff roll. And for that to have happened, the cowl was just not properly refastened, resecured by maintenance personnel. And
so this cowl, it's like a hood on your car, right?
Exactly. And you might say, well, why would you open that in the first place, you morons? Well, the cowl gets opened all the time for engine inspections. We've talked to you about how regularly the airplanes are inspected, and it's going to come open at least for a daily check once every 24 hours, or an overnight check when the airplane is parked for several hours at a base, and those can be combined. Or if the pilots come in and write that the oil quantity is low or approaching a minimum amount for dispatch, the techs are going to open it right there on the ground in between flights and service the oil right there. So those are 3 reasons you might open that for any time in a 24-hour period. And there are others, but it just, to err is human, and it just didn't get secured properly. But on top of all this other fodder, yeah, it's tough to swallow, and certainly the video footage is quite impressive. And I don't know for a fact, and in fact, I think not, the pilots were just able to make a normal landing. I don't think it affected flight controls. I don't think it hurt the slat that it was pounding, the leading edge device. It was retracted, and as far as I know, they were able to extend it normally and do a normal landing, other than the fact that it was continually beating the tar out of the airplane until they stopped. But does it look good on the internet? Oh yeah, it looks good. And does that help you? No, but statistically, we've gone over this many times. In terms of a percentage of airplane launches per day, this is nothing, and that in fact turned out to be really a non-safety issue. It turned out to be a return to the airport issue, but not really a safety issue. And some mechanic got in big trouble, and that's kind of the end of that.
I remember it was many years ago. I came to the we used to have to pick up our paperwork in the passenger boarding area, and I walked through there and I noticed everybody over at the windows looking out at our airplane, and our hood was open. We had the mechanics were doing something. So I made it a practice to talk to everybody before we pushed back from the gate. So I walked back in the cabin just before we shut the doors, and I said, how many of you are feeling not so good about seeing the hood open on the side of our car? Or side of our engine? And of course, about everybody's hands went up. And I said, think about it. I said, I don't know what they're doing or why they had it open or whatever, but that's what they do to perform routine maintenance on it, among other things, and do checks, like Eric said. So I said, even if it was a problem, where would you rather know about it? At 35,000 feet or before you get off the ground? And just little things like that. People got it. They realize, you don't go driving off without your hood, and the fasteners that they use to fasten those are very, very, very good and secure. But if you should not fasten it properly one time, and you get 400 miles an hour worth of wind underneath a piece of sheet metal there, tie is going to go to the wind. And so that's probably what happened that day. So,
and as Ron just pointed out, when he walked down to talk to his crew about the hood being open, he might not have known then, but before he took off, in the logbook, there would have been a very detailed explanation by maintenance of exactly what they were doing. They're not allowed to say, you're not allowed to ask them and say, hey guys, what's going on down there? Nothing. Nothing is not an appropriate answer. It has to be cataloged in great detail in the airplane logbook every time.
And
related
Eric, one of the things that we had talked about, for those of you who kind of like feel, really triggered by this event with the cowl, you got to listen to the audio of the pilots and the ATC. I mean, if you listen to that and the kind of calm, almost nonchalant kind of way that the pilots are speaking, that to me is really where
it's the most reassuring thing you can do, is to listen to them.
That is the best thing you could ever do, is listen to those guys talk with each other. And I challenge you to detect any kind of emotion, actually.
I just probably were not stressed.
No.
I just listened to Sully in Miracle on the Hudson again, to the voice track of that, and same thing. You just listen to it, man. It's like, nope. He says, you want to go to Teterboro? Nope, can't do that. Going to be in the Hudson. And it's just, and he had two and a half minutes to figure all that out. So anyway, so things happen, and when they flare up, and there's a reason to make a headline, like Boeing has not done what they should have done, they're going to stay in the news like that. So not to worry.
We do have a question. Is it harder, or is it hard to land a plane full with fuel right after takeoff? So is that any more challenging? I don't even want to say dangerous, but is it any more challenging to do that? And Eric, did we have any recent takeoffs? And the whole thing with the cowl, right? They took off and then they came right back, so they had a full
so they take off and they got to turn around and land. Doesn't matter what the reason, Eric. What's the first consideration, other than if you got an emergency or something?
Yeah, it's just, you want to return to the airport safely, and the weight, the checklist covers landing weights and whether you can dump fuel or go back or not. And in the 737, it doesn't dump fuel, and there's just a procedure.
So first consideration is, how heavy am I?
Yeah, how heavy are you? And so you're going to have speeds appropriate for that and everything else. And when you get done, it will be a normal approach and landing, but you will use more runway because you will approach at a greater speed, and maintenance, to the best of your ability, they'll immediately come up and start playing 21 questions with you, which is okay, because they want to know what your vertical sink rate was right at the moment of touchdown, and speed and that sort of thing. And it helps them to tell them that in terms of what inspecting they have to do for an overweight landing. If there's an overweight landing, they immediately have an overweight landing procedure that they have to go through before the airplane can go again. So it's already previously thought through.
And so when would we make an overweight landing, generally speaking?
Well, it happened to the Southwest guys, if you have an emergency or a situation after takeoff where you have to return to that airport, you won't have burned much of your trip fuel.
Well, that's why. But I mean, what I was thinking of is you're going to land overweight if it's more urgent, right? If not,
Sure.
You can end up drilling holes in the sky. So that's the difference. So with that, if you got more weight, which one is the most likely airplane to land or to have to make a heavyweight landing or overweight landing, or go a 777 or a 737?
No, highly likely the triple, because they don't do Des Moines to Omaha turns on those. They're going to go a long ways, and they got a lot of gas in them. And if it's not a fire or an engine fire where it's a no-brainer land right away, the crew will probably talk to dispatch, and they'll immediately connect into maintenance. So they're all talking to each other, and they'll say, hey, with two good engines operating, they'll say, do you want us to come back and land this overweight, or do you want us to burn it out? You guys decide, because they can make a normal landing off of it either way. And they probably will have dispatch and maintenance approval before they go back.
Yeah. So things like that. So if you end up, on a big airplane going somewhere, you may end up holding, because it's not that urgent, and they'll burn down below that. Otherwise, if they got to get it on the ground, we land overweight, like Eric said. We got maintenance procedures to cope with that. Any other questions out there about should I fly?
Plane came right back to the gate. It's not like the aircraft, they landed and all of a sudden the emergency vehicles went out onto the runway or anything. It was a normal return to the gate, and they were going to deal with the maintenance issues there to begin with, at least. And so they got back to the gate, and the passengers deplaned just as they normally would. And then they got on a different aircraft and continued on their flight. So,
and if they had been regular followers of Fearless Flight Live, they would have taken the crew and the passengers, put them all in a room, and they'd have let them ask questions for a little while, just so that they wouldn't have to carry that trauma with them into their lives. So, but if that happens to you, you can call one of us up and we'll tell you, so you don't have to carry that around the rest of your life. I can't tell you how many people. I'm working with a fella in Grand Rapids, Michigan right now, and that poor fella, they had a upset due to wake turbulence, and it must have it was in a regional jet, and it must have really, really upset them. The flight attendant spent the rest of the hour flight from Minneapolis to Grand Rapids with her head in her lap crying. So that was the demo that they had going on. And when they got there, there were a couple of people. One person was so upset because the pilots never said anything. This is years ago, and he hasn't flown since. It was so upset, he grabbed the captain who was standing there with the first officer by the lapels and threw him to the floor. And that got him a ticket to jail, because they arrested him immediately when he got off the airplane. But that's what happens when people go through something like that and they don't know what's going on. And this is frightening. If you happen to be unlucky enough to be in an RJ and you go through some wake turbulence like that, and it upsets the airplane like that, it's gonna be frightening to you. But it can be resolved by somebody to talk to right after that. Go ahead.
That was, this is a few years ago. I was forward, and we got up and could hear some whistling, and turns out there was a leak, a small leak in the main cabin door seal, and it got louder and louder. And I was talking with the captain back and forth, and so we did the same thing. I mean, it got to the point where it was so loud the passengers in the back of the aircraft could hear it. And so we just turned back, we taxied to the gate, everybody deplaned, got on another plane. The captain had described to the passengers beforehand why we were turning back and all that other kind of stuff. So there was no mystery whatsoever. And everybody—
It used to happen on a 737. About my first year on the 737, that happened. The captain, flight attendant came up and said, "Hey, this is driving us crazy. There's a squeal coming from the door." He said, "Take a glass of water, pour it at the top of the door, and I mean, what that did is it lubricated the seal somewhat. It just happened to be twisted a little bit, and it lubricated it. And popped right into, because it was inflated, it popped right in and stopped it. So that was, I looked like a genius the rest of my career. Only had to tell somebody to pour a glass of water on it like 2 times. But yeah, so there we get some seat of your pants maintenance capabilities after years of experience as well. But yeah, door seals are unnerving because it's a crazy whistle going out through.
That whistle, yeah.
Yeah, and it does. It's annoying. That's one of the things. If you've read much about the door plug that blew on the Alaskan Airlines, and the crew, it was unnerving for those folks up there. They couldn't hear, they couldn't talk, they lost their headsets. It was really, that was the chaos that really. What's amazing is they could think and they did their jobs. It's just crazy when you have something that's really out of the ordinary there. So, okay. So let me go back on. We're going to have, the good news is we're trying to respond to people. I've been having more and more people say, let's fly. And so we're going to do that. And we seem to have more people in LA than anywhere else. That we have a bigger pool there, probably because we had an established presence there prior to the pandemic. But we're going to have another Clear for Takeoff 301 graduation flight. That's a practical flight where it includes the flight, the briefings, and we'll have a special online webinar to pre-brief Thursday night before the June 22nd, which is a Saturday. So that'll be June 20th. There'll be the webinar to prepare everybody, and June 22nd, which is a Saturday, and we'll be going to Burbank. I'm sorry, we'll be going from Burbank to Oakland this time. Normally we go to Sacramento, but we'll be going to Oakland this time. If you use that link in there, which Dieter will no doubt put in the chat here, and you scroll down to the bottom, you can see the flights that we're going to take. And it says Los Angeles, but it's really going to be Burbank. But that you go over to the right and preview, and it'll tell you the flights that we're gonna go. Prices are down. We pushed it out about 9 weeks, I believe, so that if you jump on it right now, you can get the cheapest fares. Okay. Now, you can see $797 is what we really want to charge out of that, because we got to buy tickets too, and I got to get to Burbank, got to spend the night, and so it's an expensive venture, but it's the most rewarding thing I do other than fly with people one-on-one. It is just a joy to fly with people, and it's a guaranteed you won't have a better experience on your next flight other than flying with us like this. So we want you to do that. And if you're doing anything right, it won't cost you $797. We're already marking it down to $497. And the one caveat this time, because I got stuck a couple of times with only 1 or 2 people, and that's just an expensive venture that I can't afford at the stage of my retirement here. So you can sign up for the class, register, pay your money. And if we don't have enough people, and that depends on how many people and what the registrations are, the average registration price, we'll give you all your money back if we don't, we'll make this decision by the midnight June 9th. Okay, so that's the first thing. So it's a go, except if we don't get enough people. And we'll talk about the fares here in just a minute. We're looking for a minimum number of people. We haven't decided what that is. It can be as few as 5 people. It'd be nice if we have 10, 15. The most we've ever had was 29. That's too many. We'd rather not go with too many, so we'll restrict the size somewhat. Like I said, normally $797, currently $497. But here's the big deal: the discounts. If you are a current FFC member, that means you could sign up for the next webinar coming up on the 18th of this month, a week from this Thursday, and we're going to give it to you for $297. We're going to take $200 off if you are a current FFC member. You can cancel the FFC membership afterwards if you want. We just know that people who stay engaged do better. If you've ever purchased a Clear for Takeoff 201 course, we're also going to offer you the $200 discount. I didn't put the discount in there, but it's also going to be $297. And if you have ever flown with us in a Clear for Takeoff 301 class previously, so you could have just done the last one and you want to fly again, it's also going to be $297. So it's virtually impossible to pay more than $297 if you just have your wits about you and take one of these options here. We really, really would love to have you if you're anywhere near LA during that time. We just like to have you out there. Let's see.
Gary
This is the
says
one-on-one.
he's in.
What's that?
Gary just said he's in. So and
Okay,
Gary,
cool.
as an alumni, you're on the 297. So we're just making sure to get maybe email Capt Ron just for the special link for the 297.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe somebody else even said
And,
that. Go ahead, Ron.
we really love doing this. We want to fly with you, and it is the best and the fastest way to get back in the air with confidence. So come and join us. You talk to anybody, we'll try to find some people to give a few testimonies on what a positive experience is. Sandra Holgan, I know, is out there. Sandra hadn't flown in over 60 years, and she flew, and she did marvelously. So we want you to come out and fly with us, okay? We touched on the 101 in-person class. We'll talk more about that next week. We want to highlight the group, the Clear for Takeoff 201 monthly group coaching webinar, again, coming up a week from this Thursday night, April 18th. And it's going to be around the theme of changing the way you think about flying one story at a time. And this, we're going to have a lot more information about EMDR, which we talked about in January. And I'm going to bring that back because we got shorted with the replay from Zoom through no fault of our own. So I want to talk a little bit more about EMDR and how some of the elements of that could play into this. But this is really how people get over it. People like Ellie who read this stuff in the news, or any of you out there, when you see that, you see planes crashing into each other, which is slightly a hyperbole, and wheels falling off and things like that. It plants a story in your mind, and you say, I can't do that. And if you remember last week, I touched on these thought distortions, and often these stories are the result of thought distortions, or they trigger thought distortions like all or nothing thinking, catastrophic thinking. We come up with things, and what you need is to put that elephant brain that's telling you all those crazy stories on a timeout and allow your logic to go to work and get a little bit of education about it. Slow your thinking down and realize what the story is that you're telling yourself, and rewrite that story. That's what people do that ultimately overcome all of this. Okay. This is the Fearless Flyer Club. A quick pitch for that. There's the link to that. You can join at either the $37 a month level, the $57 a month level, or the VIP lifetime VIP level, which more and more people are becoming aware and getting the hint that the lifetime VIP is probably the best deal that we have out here, because it allows you to not worry about nickel and diming yourself every month with coaching calls and all those things. You get a couple of coaching calls every year with the lifetime, and you're an automatic monthly member to the Fearless Flyer Club. So I can't think of anything else. I don't know if we've raised any questions. I can't overstate the fact that we want you all to come out and join us on the 301. So if you have any interest, if you've been yammering at me to when are we going to fly again? When are we going to fly? Well, we're going to fly again, and it'll be right before summer vacation. So maybe you can plan an uneventful flight and nice vacation this summer, flying somewhere. Okay.
And
So-
quick word, if you are thinking about flying on June 22nd, now is the time to get a ticket.
Yeah.
Now the tickets are super affordable, super cheap. Same, it's the same every time. People wait and wait and wait until the last minute. Actually, Gary has a story. He was at the at the Hollywood class, right? And I think even the flight was sold out, but even I think what I saw was like $500 one way or something like that. Well, right now it's $100 or something like that one way. So that's super affordable. And here's the thing for all those of you who are thinking, yeah, but what if I don't fly? Well, the good news is Southwest will actually hold whatever you paid for your flight, even with your cheapest fare, even with that wanna get away fare, you will get that money as a credit. Okay, so that means you can put it towards some future flight, and those credits do not expire, and they're dollar for dollar, right?
Oh,
Is that
absolutely.
correct? So
The one-
whatever. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep talking. Keep
So there's
talking.
really what I'm trying to point out here is the biggest risk is not acting, is not making that decision and saying, I'm gonna lean into this. I fully own the fact that there's a big part of me that doesn't believe that I can do it, that I can get better at this, but I'm gonna commit to it anyways. And these are, oh yeah, so
Let's go. Let's just do this real quick. Okay,
these
so
are
we're
the
going.
fares, yeah.
Yeah, in the past we've gone to Sacramento because it's a nice little flight up there. Oakland, same way. And what happens is Southwest has leaned their schedule, so we don't have as many choices to get up and back in the same day from Sacramento. But Oakland still is plentiful. So what we're going to end up doing, I think, if I can remember right, it's the oh my gosh, the
That one.
It's that one.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah,
4603.
Yes.
for one.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be departing over there at 11:20 and heading up to Oakland. And you can see here's the fare structure. This is what you're going to end up paying if you don't buy your ticket soon or more. So what this are, they've got 4 fare structures here now. Want to get away? That's anybody, anytime. That's always their cheapest, but that fare climbs the closer you get to the flight. When you get within 2 to 3 weeks, they figure that if you're flying that close to the departure, you got to go, and they're going to grab your money and they're going to raise the price. The next one is, and now the deal is Dieter was alluding to, if you purchase the one to get aware price, if you should for whatever reason not fly, whether we cancel it and you decide to keep the ticket or whatever, they will keep the credit forever. It used to be a year, now it's forever. There's no expiration date. So if you fly down the road and you didn't fly this date, you'll have $115 towards whatever ticket you then buy. And the one limitation is you can only use that credit yourself. You can't assign it to anybody else. If you pay a few bucks more, you get the want to get away plus fare. Now you can see that's $130. Same benefits. The fare, the credit never goes away if you should not fly. And if you want to, you can assign it one time to somebody else. So you could give it to me or Diane or Eric, and we could use it. Okay. So it's not as restrictive. And then the anytime fare, if you want to play it safe and say, I'm not sure, or what if Ron doesn't have enough people, then you can buy that. And that means it's fully refundable. So you get your money back without any questions asked. The business select, that gives you a drink on the flight and priority boarding, and you'd be in the 1 through 15 on the Southwest system there. Okay, so that's the way the fares go, and that is the outbound flight that will be going on. So again, get your tickets. We can't overemphasize. Get your tickets as soon as you can, so that you don't have to sit there and say, "No, now, Capt Ron, look at this. It's $500 just to go up there." Sure, and that's what they're doing right now. But this is a great time to purchase that, and Oakland's a great destination. Maybe 10 minutes shorter than Sacramento, so we're looking at 45 minutes or so in flight. And I've never heard done any of these classes where we haven't taken off, and the next thing we know, we're in the descent. People say, are we descending? Yeah, it's that quick. And big smiles on their faces and all that. And then going back, it's like, come on, get this show on the road, get us back there. So we go up there, we'll have a couple hours on the ground to get your bite to eat and talk over the flight, go back and send you on your merry way so that you can go anywhere in the four corners of the world. So that's all I've got. Any other closing thoughts, questions?
Ron, we're only going to have about 30 minutes on the ground in Oakland. It's a very tight turn with these two flight numbers that you threw out here.
Oh, let me make
Yeah.
sure.
Very tight turn.
Sure.
So if you're going for the fine dining, this is not going to be the one for you.
Well, I don't know how much fine dining there is in
Just
Oakland.
fabulous.
All about the fine dining.
Yeah,
And the
we
same
are.
thing.
Is it got us on the 105 flight coming back?
That's that. Is
23,
that
28, 18? What's the flight number?
It's 2818.
wait,
Yeah,
what?
28. Okay, yeah,
That's
yeah,
three.
that's
I want to end this just there was a message by Ali. I'm flying tomorrow and I'm terrified. And so what I think I already put it in the chat, but if you are not a member of our Facebook group, Birds of a Feather, I put the link there. Join, make sure you answer the questions and you agree to the rules, and then post your flight and ask our members to cheer you on and support you and track you, and make sure that you read through some of the other posts of other members who feel just like you, terrified before your upcoming flight, and go through some of the supportive comments and tips and suggestions, because you may not have enough time to get a 15-minute coaching in, but this is really and if that you're saying, wow, that's great, but I really want something more, what I highly recommend, and I'll put the link in there, is that you get yourself the Fearless Flight Kit. It's designed exactly for this purpose and this reason. When the house is on fire, so to speak, get yourself the Fearless Flight Kit and start listening to it before you even leave the house tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
That's about it from
Thanks, everybody. Once again, we've successfully done something here for you. Hopefully, get you on an airplane, and we appreciate your coming back. This is for you, for anybody who's afraid to fly, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for another edition of Fearless Flight Live. Bye
Next
bye.
week, Crew Edition Live.
Yes.
We'll talk to you then, the three of us.